Welcome to Biology in Your Backyard.
I'm Dr. Mark Johnson.
I'm Tamarick.
I'm May. And I'm Oscar. And today's video is about excellent equipment.
Today we're not outside. Today we're in our kitchen to tell you about some of the equipment you can use to study biology in your backyard. But first, the most important thing to remember is you don't necessarily need any equipment. The most important thing is for you just to get outside and explore the biology around your own home. But if you get really excited about some of these things, there are certain pieces of equipment that will help you understand that biology. The first most important thing to use, though, Tamarick's going to tell us about right now.
Like Mark said, there is one piece of equipment that every good biologist should have, and that is a field book. A field book is something you'll take with you every time you go out because you're going to mark down your observations. And there are three important things that we recommend you do every single time. You should record the date of your observation, the location, so where you made the observation, and add as much detail to your observation as you possibly can. And that might mean a drawing or labels and information about behaviors you observed while you were looking at that organism. So here's an example of an observation I made in my garden today. I saw a bumblebee. So the first thing I did was draw a picture, and you'll notice that it takes up quite a bit of my page, which is important because you want to be able to add as much detail as possible. So you can see here the different body parts, and I've added the labels, and everything goes off to one side only. That way it's easier to keep track of it. And then at the top, I have the date that I observed the bumblebee, the place, the location of where I observed the bumblebee, and down here at the bottom, I even wrote some notes about what the bumblebee was doing when I saw it. All of this information will help you learn more about biology because the next time you see a bumblebee, you might learn something new and then you can add to it. So take a pencil and any book that you have handy and get busy.
If you're somebody who's really interested in birds, specifically studying the biology of birds, I'm going to show you some tools that will help you with that. The first and one of the most important tools are binoculars. These will help you view birds as if they're closer to you. And make sure to watch my dad's video on how to properly use binoculars, which we will be posting soon. Now, another great tool is called a spotting scope. And this will bring the birds even closer. Now, this one isn't very good. However, it has helped us to experience the birds a lot more. Now remember, when you get a spotting scope, you will need to get a tripod. Another tool is a camera with a telephoto lens, and this is helpful you to get up close and personal with the birds. This is also really great if you want to take pictures of the birds. And as with the spotting scope, it is often useful if you have a tripod when using this. When studying invertebrates, there are a whole bunch of pieces of equipment that can be useful. The first thing is jars. Jars are helpful when collecting and viewing insects. Now, you don't have to have anything special. You can just use Tupperwares, mason jars, or even pharmacy's prescription bottles once you remove the label. The next thing is envelopes, which are useful for storing dragonflies and butterflies. However, if you're going to store butterflies in envelopes, make sure to use the glassine kinds that you can get from stamp collectors so that you don't rub the scales off. Butterfly nets are so useful for capturing all flying insects. Make sure that when you're purchasing a butterfly net, you choose one with a fairly deep pocket because the ones that you can buy at Dollarama with the very short pockets are ineffective at capturing the insects. The length of the handle will vary, but if you have kids, choose one with a shorter handle because that's best.
One really useful piece of equipment when it comes to collecting small insects is this. It's called an aspirator, also known as a pooter. That's right, pooter. All you have to do is stick this end in your mouth and start sucking in air. So when you start sucking in the air from the hose, this part will be in your mouth. The air goes through this tube along with the insects you're trying to collect and comes out this hole and into the collecting jar. Now, you don't have to worry about the insects going up the hose back into your mouth because on the other side, there's a little screen to protect you. Now, May has already mentioned vials and jars, but sometimes you have something that's bigger, like a butterfly, or you want to observe something for a longer period of time. So we recommend you use bigger cages. I have two examples here. The first one is this plastic cage. You can take the lid all the way off, or if you don't want to do that, you can just open the little door at the top to place your specimens in here for observing. It's got air holes, which is important because you want your invertebrates to stay healthy while you're observing them. Another one that Riverwood Junior Naturalists like to use is this cage. It's actually foldable, which makes it easy to just pop in your backpack when you're ready to go out for a walk. And then when you catch a few things, you open it up, you unzip, you quickly empty your net of whatever you caught into there, zip it back up. And the great thing that I really love about this is that the other side is clear. It makes it really easy to spend some time watching your butterflies and dragonflies flying around before you let them go.
Another thing that's really useful in viewing invertebrates is a camera. Now, May talked about using a camera to look at birds. And for birds, you're usually going to need a telephoto lens. But for most invertebrates, which are a lot smaller and you're often seeing much closer, it's more useful to in fact have a macro lens. This is something that when organisms are near, it makes them really big. And so if you can get a camera and a macro lens, that can be really useful to take images and videos of some of your organisms. But you don't even need a fancy camera. These days, most phones are in fact getting pretty good at taking macro shots. And a lot of the videos that you've seen from biology in your backyard has been taken using our phones. And so try to get in there with your phone and see if you can take macro shots, both videos and photos as well.
One of my favorite things to do is look for organisms at night. But to do that, I need special tools that will help me find them in the dark, like a spotlight. Or if you don't have a spotlight, a flashlight will do. Some other things that can help you find nighttime organisms are stuff like a camera trap or even a thermal imager. And even though we don't have those, if you do, they'd be really great to help you find organisms at nighttime.
Now, I know a lot of you are interested in plants as well, and there's a few simple tools that you can use to help you study those plants. The simplest tool of all is simply a Ziploc bag. Sometimes you'll be out on a walk and you'll see a plant that you don't know but you want to study. Well, you can take a little bit of that plant, put it in that Ziploc bag, seal the Ziploc bag, and that'll help keep it fresh. And then you can even leave it in your refrigerator for a few days until you're ready to study it. But don't take a plant if it's rare. Use the 1 to 10 rule. So if there's 10 plants, take a maximum of 1. Another thing that's really useful to look at the fine features of a plant is a loupe, a magnifying glass. And they come in different forms. Usually you can get them to magnify to 10 times. And I keep mine around my neck all the time, so I'm ready whenever I see a flower or even a small invertebrate. I can look at that and look up really close and see what's there. If you don't have one of these magnifying loupes, you can just use a magnifying glass. That'll help as well. The last thing that's really useful in studying plants out in the field is a plant press. And a large plant press like this can be really useful for preserving your specimens of any size, small or large. And I'm going to give a small video on how to use a plant press in the future, so watch for that. But if you don't have a big plant press, which you can even make at home, you can order them, but they're easy to make as well. You can use a small little plant press. This is one that I made for May and Oscar, and it just has little pieces of cardboard, hard cardboard on the outside, and little pieces of paper to help press the plants in between those papers, as well as some strong elastic bands. And if you don't have those, even putting it in your book to study later, when you dry a plant, it helps preserve it for a longer period of time.
So if you're really into geology, there are some pretty simple tools that can help you open up rocks, find fossils, stuff like a hammer, even if it's just a simple hardware hammer. Or if you're getting a little more complex, you can get one of these hammer/pickaxes. And another good tool to help you chip into the rock is called a chisel. You see how it has that blade there? You hammer on it with your hammer, and that will chip into the rock. But it's very important that if you're using these tools, wear eye protection. So here we have a limestone rock, and I want to try to hammer it open because I believe there could be fossils in this rock. So let's give it a go. We're going to give it a few good whacks. Doesn't seem to be taking any damage. I don't want to wreck any of the fossils in here. So I'm going to try using my chisel just to get it. Looks like we actually made some way finally, so I'm going to try to take it off. Get this, and look at that beauty. I might even try to crack it open some more to see what's inside of this.
And now for the nature fact of the day. Monarch butterflies are migrating north right now as I speak, as you watch this. And at this very moment, the very northernmost monarch butterflies are in Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. So if you live in Ontario or Quebec or New York, they're going to be coming to you very soon. So get ready for them. They'll be here by the end of May.
Thanks so much for joining us for this video about excellent equipment. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.